was cracked once, twice, and the humming courtroom froze. All eyes swung to the doorway where Jaguar Wright, singer, survivor, self-proclaimed industry whistleblower, strode in clutching a slim hard drive. She never spoke to Sean Diddy. Calms and everyday heroes, the odds, but the look she fired across the aisle made the message clear as whatever's on these files could upend everything you built. Despite the odds, moments later the judge ordered a recess. Defense counsel huddled in visible panic, and social media feeds lit up with a single breathless question: and what did Jaguar just hand over? And could it finally crack open hip hop's most impregnable empire? Jaguar's arrival wasn't on any witness list, despite, according to courthouse reporters, what she claims had never before seen videos involving a then 17-year-old actor, Brescher's Yaz. Gray and Combs at a 2014 industry retreat. EIVAG procurers that's accepted the drive under seal. Defense lawyers immediately objected, calling the material or an authenticated rumor. For the uninitiated, but despite the odds, and Wright has spent the past 4 years describing what she calls the vacuum of lies surrounding elite parties, stories that mainstream outlets long brushed aside as conspiracy, who, despite the odds, now with sworn testimony stacking up, her warnings suddenly read less like gossip and more like roadmap. Court Wright told freelance videographers she felt compelled to support every survivor too, scared to speak, insisting she would attend hearings until the hush money runs dry. Whether the tapes will ever reach the jury is uncertain, but their mere existence shifted, opening weak momentum. Spectators who once whispered, maybe civil, but Riso, no way began to imagine the unthinkable. Despite the odds, a full criminal enterprise finally laid bare. And if the sex tape whispers shook spectators, Chiro satisfied. Despite the odds, the worn words of Combs' former partner would rattle them even harder. Cassie Ventura took the stand curled over the microphone. She spied the odds as this breaking, as she described hotel suitides bathed in pink LED lights, 24 bottles of baby oil, and despite odds and to strangers paid to perform while Combs watched from an armchair, called the sessions freak offs, multi-day marathons that left her too numb to feel normal.
So, man, let's get right to it then. To be what you were doing in your team, y'all had to have seen some evil shit, like some pretty fucked up shit coming from niggas with money.
Well, you see that from niggas who don't have money also.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you see a lot of shit. It is what it is.
So, again, I have to ask you that, because sometimes when you see like, let's say a puff, you might have a manager who might be an enabler, like to help him get to it, like R. Kelly or whoever. And you have their bodyguards or security unit who might allow some things to take place. Might see it and just, hey, we're gonna just allow it because, you know, hey, it's the essence. What was your mentality when it comes to the enablers or the people that allow, or just what, you know, how did you approach the situation that you're like, I don't know about that?
I don't know what you mean by that question. That was such a broad and asinine ass question that it's hard to answer something like that.
Let me be more direct.
Be direct, bro.
Let me be more direct.
Yeah.
Were you an enabler, or did you allow or see stuff that you're like, man, I ain't gonna jump in that?
Bro,
go ahead.
Criminals do crimes with criminals. I've never been a criminal. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So now, if you're looking to answer something about Puff, Puff ain't the Puff. Puff had different phases of his life that y'all don't understand. And let's get down to the nitty gritty of it. You understand? First you got Puff Daddy, who had Daddy's house and the parties and things like that. Then you had Puff. You understand? Then you had Diddy. Then you had Brother Love, and then Love. I had Puff around the stage when he was Puff Daddy and Puff and some of Diddy. Not the new Diddy that they gave the diddler and everything like that. So he ain't the guy, he wasn't the guy that y'all see now back then when he was in Harlem. You understand? He was the guy that our crew chased down the street because he was trying to be a part of it, and he ran. You understand? We brought him back, beat the shit out of him, hit him in the head with cake, spoon, and champagne and all the other shit like that. He was wanted to be a part of us. He was the one who used to beg, don't go to the party, please, please, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, so he could walk in the club with us. You understand? So to answer that question, bruh, you're not doing nothing that's gonna cost my livelihood. You understand? You're not gonna do anything in front of me to cost my livelihood. You understand? Now, have I seen some shit? I seen a dude come up in the club and blow somebody's head off. I see the smoke running through the crowd trying to get to the lights. You understand? At a New Year's Eve party. So now I see this guy laying on the ground with his head tore down to the white meat. Did I know who did it? No. Did somebody tell me it's about to happen? Yes, they did. Yo, Gene, somebody got a gun in here. No, they didn't. We searched everybody. He came through the back door of the kitchen. You understand?
Yeah.
Because it was a restaurant that was giving a party. The guy came through the back. I run and turn on the light. And as soon as I hit the light switch, you see, pow, and the gun smoke. Dude ran. That's the kind of crazy shit we see. You see girls having sex in the bathroom. That's crazy shit. You grab them with the guys and you throw them out the club. You understand?
Yeah.
So
it gets like that.
Right.
I have to ask real quick. Diddy's pops. I saw you. There was you had mentioned that as far as Diddy's pops, his dad was murdered.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that I didn't know. Did you know of his pops?
I didn't know of his pop. I ain't know jack shit about his pops. I learned from his pops from one of the biggest gangsters in Harlem, New York Freddie, right? The police said they went to New York Freddie's house in Mount Vernon and he had stacks of $100 bills 6 feet high in the whole basement. That's how much money he had. He was the one who started Russell Simmons. They won't tell y'all this story. He was the one who started Russell Simmons and them into the music business because he had a record label first that Russell Simmons used to work for. So now, New York Freddie want to talk to Big Gene. One of his lieutenants back in the day, if you can see his story, his name was Omar. Omar was our OG from 112th Street, 114th Street. They used to come around with us. They used to love the food I used to cook because I'm a hell of a cook. You know what I'm saying? So now, Omar said, yo, New York Freddie want to talk to you, Gene. I told him he used to bodyguard Puff because he want to talk to Puff and tell Puff the real story about his father. So I said, yeah, all right. So I'm like, New York Freddie. I knew my history. I knew what New York Freddie was about. So I went and took a meeting with New York Freddie. New York Freddie said to me, he said, yo, man, I've been trying to get in touch with Puff. Russell Simmons, none of them would take my calls. It's all good. He said, I want to tell Puff the true story about his father. And I said, yo, all right, okay, you know, what's up? You're gonna listen to those guys. You understand? So New York Freddie said, Puff father sold some drugs to one of their undercover guys. You understand? They arrested him because they had cops on the payroll to, you know, see what you about. He said they brought him the tape and the written confession that Puff father signed. So I was like, yo, he said, we gave him $10,000. It was a New York City cop. He worked for them. He said, we gave him $10,000. Puff father said that he only told because he had a wedding to go to, which I thought was hilarious. You understand? This is coming from New York Freddie. So he said that I wanted to talk to Puff, but he wouldn't take my calls, he wouldn't see me. He said, I wanted to let him know that I told the guy, y'all gotta get rid of him. Y'all brought him in, y'all gotta get rid of him. So all these people talking about he worked for Frank Lucas, he worked for that part like that. He may have gotten some things from them or whatever, did some work. Nah, he worked with New York Freddie team. And New York Freddie told the dude to get rid of him. Now, if Puff father was all that big of a gangster and he was all that and everything like that, why is he driving a cab? None of the gangsters in Harlem drove cabs. They drove Cadillacs, Rolls Royce, Mercedes, etc. You understand what I'm saying? So now, Puff father get murked by the dude that brought him in. And New York Freddie said to me, he said, I want to let him know the dude that was crying at the hardest at the funeral, carrying the casket, was the one who killed him. So now, this is crazy to me, right? About a month ago, I told that story, right? A young lady, a woman, who was dating Puff father, hit me on, what y'all DM me on the, the Instagram. She said, Big Gene, she said, thank you for telling my story, that story. He said, I was dating for Puff father. And I went up to Flash Inn. It was a thing on 155th and McCombs Avenue in Harlem. I was waiting for him the next day, because he had told me the day before he was killed that to meet him up there. He said New York Freddie and all they crew was up there laughing and joking, and they knew about Puff father that got killed. So now I knew why they was doing that. Yes, sir.
Real life story. What made you leave Diddy's side?
Who said I left his side? You said what made him, you said what made me leave his side?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the whole working for him.
Puff, ASAP Ferg father went to Puff, and there's two reasons. He asked Puff to do a favor for him. He was in a certain situation. And I took him up there. I had $10,000 of Puff money in my pocket because we had left North Carolina. He was going somewhere and he didn't want to take the money with him. And this was about 2 weeks later. It was a week before my birthday, like 4 or 5 days before my birthday. D said, yo, I want to go up to the office and talk to Puff. I said, all right, come on, I'll take you up there. So then he went and talked to Puff. He had some designs. He was one of the best designers in Harlem. He had a clothing company on 145th Street. And, yeah, that's ASAP Ferg father.
Yeah,
so now,
hit me into the
yeah, he the one designed the Bad Boy logo. Yeah, and he designed the old Uptown Record logo too. You know what I'm saying? So this guy was incredible. The people used to come and steal his designs and mass produce it. He was the one who put all the things. You remember you ever see
the patches
and stuff on the jacket, on the arms and stuff? He designed that. He was the one who started the painting of the sneakers. Nah, somebody stole his shit and did all like that. He was the one who started. He was the one who was putting Gucci, Louis Vuitton on the cartoon characters and selling the shirts. That was ASAP Ferg father. So now I take him up to Puff. He got all these designs. He say, Puff, I need this money, man. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna tell you the situation, but I'm gonna let you know it was some street shit. Now this is the dude when Puff lost his job at Uptown Records and he couldn't pay his car note. He couldn't pay his rent. He got $3,000 from Mike Cock. You know what I'm saying? And this dude named, they call him Mike Sessions now because he grown, he older. You know what I'm saying? But he was known as Mike Cock back in the day. He got $3,000 from Mike Cock. D. Ferg gave him money. This new Puff was talking about committing suicide. I said, well, let him. You know what I'm saying? Nigga, that weak, let him. You understand? So then now, he gave this dude a lot of money because he was collecting money from the same gang dudes to make sure Puff could pay his rent, pay his car note, and survive until he got with the butt naked guys, you know, Corey, Wolf, and L. That was a crew called Butt Naked. You know what I'm saying? He got with them. They gave parties, bro.
Yeah, I'm just, bro. I'm not tripping on. You know, we have some crazy names back here. Like they'd be like In Dallas, it'll be like Smash Head and Pumpkin Boy. The names that like old school or OGs used to have back in the day just always
it was
tripped me
butt
out.
naked, and they logo a booty ain't a booty unless it's butt naked. All right.
Nah, for real.
So now he got money, gave Puff and everything like that. He went up and asked Puff for lazy money like that. Now I could have just gave him that money I had in my pocket, because Puff had completely all about it, forgot all about it. Never asked me the 2 weeks he was back in town and nothing like that. Because I only had Puff on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When I get off work on Friday, you understand, they'll call me, yo, Gene, you got Puff? Yeah, I got him. You understand? Saturdays and Sunday, I have them all day. You understand? Those was my days. So now, D asked him for the money. Puff said, I don't think I could do it. So D left out the office. I said, D, wait here for me outside. I said, you ain't gonna give Puff, you ain't gonna give D that money, dog? He was like, nah. He said, Gene, I can't do it. I can't do it right now. I said, well, here go your 10,000 that you get. He said, 10,000? I said, yeah, you gave it to me 2 weeks ago, nigga. Here, gave it to him. He said, you tell D about that? I said, no, that ain't none of his business.
Wait, Puff was I don't want to say broke, but struggling artist.
This is when he became, he was on now.
Okay.
This is some time after. This was after the city college. See, I gave you the time when after the city college, he lost his job. Nobody was effing with him the whole 9 yards. Then he went to that whole period where the dudes from Butt Naked, Wolf, L, and Corey, gave him the money to start up Bad Boy so he could keep Big, Craig Mack, and everything. Then he gets the deal from Clyde Davis. You understand? Now they put out Flavor in Your Ear, do the Big Mac commercial, do the Big Mac, that Big Mac campaign, when he put Craig Mack and Big into that box, in that Big Mac box, that a kid from his label, Mel Love, he thought of that. Puff ran with the whole campaign and the whole 9 yards. Huh?
It's a check.
There's a check. So now he's on. He's Puff. You know what I'm saying? So he's on. D Ferg went to him and said, yo, my man, I need to do this, He said, nah. Out of all the shit D had done for him, he only gave D $1,500 for that design and promised that he was gonna look out and take care of him. You understand what I'm saying? That label's known worldwide. That image. Long story short, I gave him his money. I walked out the door. D said, I ain't never ever fucking with him ever again, Gene. I said, yeah? All right. So we were straight for my birthday, right? He said, yeah, we straight. I said, you all right? He said, yeah, I'm all right. Nigga died the next day.
Come on, man. Damn.
On the 17th of October. My birthday, October the 16th.
And let me ask you,
3 days later. To finish your question?
No, please.
So now, I'm upset. I'm bitter. You understand? Behind this shit. We're in the office. Puff mother asked me, I'm sitting out by the office. This is Puff's door. I got my chair out there. Nobody goes in his office or nothing like that, without clearing me first. So then Puff mother asked me to go downstairs and get some food out of her car. I said, I'm not here for that. What's wrong with you? She said, all these interns and stuff like that. She said, you're the only one that don't do what I asked them to do. And I want to know why. I said, I'm not here for that, Miss Cone. You understand? She said, but if I ask you to do something, she was just going on like that. Puff came out the office. Why you always messing with Gene? Why you messing with Gene? I said, I'm 38 in the waist, handsome in the face. You understand? And then he said, leave Gene alone. He said, Paul, yo, I'm tired of this. Paul was the other security. So now, I just never went back. That was it.
What's your relationship to what's his name? Roger Bonds.
I don't have no relationship with him.
No relationship.
Don't know him from a can of paint. I think he came in as a driver when I was leaving.
Right.
He started with a driver. I don't have no relationship with him.
Now,
Jurors also heard from former assistant George Kaplan, who testified he was ordered to strip rooms of anything that hinted at bondage or drug uses. I'd trash empty Gatorade, jugs, Astroglide, despite the odds, condoms, then spray vanilla so housekeeping smelled nothing. His blunt confession turned abstract allegations into concrete logistics. Who, despite the odds, defense counsel argued that Ventura stayed with Combs for years because she wanted luxury, despite the odds would not escape. Diet Alice together with Ventura's transitory 11 emails begging relatives for help and warning that Combs controls everything I touch. By day's end, had seen hotel invoices, burner, phone logs, and a 2016 corridor video of Combs dragging Cassie by the hair. Footage CNN first aired last year. Despite the odds, crucially, prosecutors reframed the sex as commerce. Escorts were paid, videos sold within a private circle. Despite the odds and proceeds, according to Homeland Security analyst, wired through Shell LCs controlled by Combs Enterprises. One analyst summarized, it wasn't a relationship, it was product. Yet if the product angle felt grim, which the next witness shifted the narrative from exploitation to outright terror. Rapper, actor Kid Cudi, Scott Mescudi, testified that after a brief 2011 romance with Cassie, his Hollywood Hills home was breached and his Porsche 911 was bombed on January 9, 2012. Los Angeles Arspin Olive's investigator confirmed a Molotov cocktail had been unmistakable targeted attack. And IAD officer jurors, he noted a Cadillac Escalade registered to Combs' production company, enabling the driveway the night the break in, but it was a very rural bit. Was Sam from running the plate was Superior, who called it a celebrity nonsense. 12 years late. His incident report is People's Exhibit 197. On cross-examination, the defense suggested, copy, Cat fans might have torched the car. Prosecutors replied by entering a text thread in which Combs allegedly bragged, you see Cootie's whip? Boom. Who, despite the odds, next time he'll know his lane. The message is admissible for context, not truth, but the smirks it drew from jurors were unmistakable. Despite the odds, why does one burn Porsche matter inside a sex trafficking indictment? Because Rexio law demands at least 2 linked predicate crimes. Who, despite the odds, combine alleged trafficking with arson, and you have the statutory pair needed to elevate misconduct into organized crime territory. Despite the odds, which brings us to the legal heart of this saga. Can prosecutors stitch every freak off every threat? Cheetah entering to a Howard Copeep into one coherent criminal enterprise. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Cummey opened by projecting a flowchart Combs at the apex, who control eccentric rings of employees, enablers, and cleaners. Each ring allegedly performed acts, some sexual, some violent, poverty heroes, some financial, that advanced to Combs' power while silencing dissent. The government's theory ties 3 categories of predicate acts to a common goal. The sex trafficking for profit and leverage, Ventura, Jane male escort, testimony, violent intimidations, Kid Cudi arson, balcony dangling incident, Dusters despite the odds, money laundering and obstructs shell company transfers, cleaning crews like Cap despite the odds. If jurors accept that Combs orchestrated or commanded at least 2 of those acts, within Tang applies. If not, charges could fracture into lesser. Despisure to beat counts. Legal analysts warn the case still has gaps. No taped order linking Combs to the fire, who, despite the odds, and no cooperating lieutenant spelling out the hierarchy. Despite the odds, a former federal prosecutor called it ambitious but fragile. Yet the courtroom mood stood when Jaron Subramanian scolded Combs for nodding vigorously at jurors, an admonition rarely issued outside mob trials. Suddenly, the abstract idea of racketeering felt tangible. In Detroit decade has gone K2 had spent a decade at House's personal fixer, ordering breakfast for A-listers 1 hour, hauling suspicious duffel bags the next. On the stand, he admitted the job's darker half, stripping hotel suites of baby, oil, slick sheets latex, despite the odds, and any powder that looked illegal before housekeeping arrived. He told jurors he even carried a travel steamer, so nothing looked rumpled, despite hood like no one ever sweated when prosecutors asked why. Kaplan answered flatly, to protect Mr. Combs' public image. The next insider, despite the odds, former bodyguard Rob Wilkins, mapped out what he called Combs' relationship pyramid. At the apex stood Kim Porter. Family, Wiad, touchable. Cassie occupied the second tier, described as moldable, like clay. Beneath them, here's a rotating cat, could be discarded if they talked. Prosecutors seized on the hierarchy to argue coercive design, not messy romance. Given despite the odds, the defense counsel shot back that Wilkins was fired for theft. Yet his notebooks, filled with head counts and delivery receipts, corroborated Kaplan's cleanup runs. The day closed with a photo array, 5 rooms, 5 different cities, each staged the same. Mirrored walls. Despite the odds, Gatorade Lana dim pink lighting. Kaplan confirmed he prepped them all, sometimes twice in 24 hours. Despite the odds, one juror visibly exhaled when the slide deck ended, an image of logistics far more methodical than simple hedonism. But if Combs' inner circle kept the machine running, despite the odds, an outer ring of celebrities kept it quiet until their jokes risked turning into Subapoinas. Instagram knows 50 Cent as hip hop's resident troll. But prosecutors are watching his memes for something bigger evidence. For almost 2 years, he has posted winking asides, screenshots of NDAs, throwback clips of Combs screaming at assistants, always captioned, "Aw." 3 weeks ago, as Cassie testified, despite he uploaded a video mashup of courtroom sketches with the caption, "Boy, aim shook. That freak off footage got him shook. I'm shook." Defense lawyers warned that 50's posts could taint the jury pool, despite the odds, and the prosecution views them as proof that insiders knew. Yet the rapper himself remains beyond the witness list, shielded so far by the First Amendment and savvy legal counsel. The standoff fuels public suspicion. If a meme candidate withheld knowledge, despite isn't he under oath? Then there's Ryan Leslie, the producer turned Harvard dropout who once dated Cassie. Bobby, the vlogs accuse him of handing her to Combs on a silver platter. Leslie insists his romance ended before Cassie met the mogul, who, despite the odds that he never saw anything untoward. Still, his silence since the lawsuit settled has become its own headline. Who, despite the odds, as commentator Jaguar Wright growled outside court, silences consent fam. Together, their non-statements sketch a damning silhouette, powerful men orbiting Combs, hinting at secrets yet ducking sworn testimony. It's gossip, fodder for TikTok. But for jurors, as a prosecution refrain, real consent fears testimony, complicity fears cross-examination. And while celebrities hedge, the collateral damage keeps piling up. Careers stalled, families fractured, even lives allegedly lost. Former Bad Boy South artist Chopper didn't arrive with lawyers. He came alone, hoodie up, voice trembling. He recalled Katrina ravaged New Orleans, a half paid a $1 million deal. In songs he says, Diddy, jacked, then shelved. When the label ghosted him, despite the odds, he blew the advance, keeping relatives afloat. He looked at me like I robbed him. Chopper testified, but all I ever robbed was my own future to stay loyal. Though not a central witness, his account as expands the enterprise is beyond freak-offs into economic exploitation. Sure, ex-partner of the late Kim Porter, despite the odds, it's granted a guarded interview to rolling out. He wouldn't pronounce Combs guilty. Had locks on vaults of info. Wright called the clip triggering, because in her words, if Kim were breathing, who despite the odds this trial would last 5 minutes, whether hyperbole or heartbreak, the statement highlights another prosecution theme. Key voices are gone. Despite the odds, Porter died in 2018. Stylist Allie Carter reportedly vanished last year. Others cite NDA threats. Even Kid Cudie's arson testimony radiates a domino effect. The Hiada spouts, after his Porsche burned, he withdrew from Cassie, released a cryptic song about night fires, and checked into rehab. That blaze didn't just torch metal. His manager told Bild, bored. The torch trust, add up the human fallout, and the case reads less like scandal and more like a decade-long slow-motion train wreck. And yet, as Combs fights for freedom, despite the odds. An unlikely wildcard looms over the verdict, one with the power to erase it all with a pen stroke. On May 30th, 2025, crowded a New York City hotel ballroom as former President Donald Trump floated the possibility of pardoning Sean Combs. "If I see injustice," the remark exploded across cable chyrons. Part legal curveball. Despite the odds, part pop culture fireworks, Combs' team quickly said they hadn't lobbied the ex-president, who, despite the odds, yet sources tell New York Magazine that intermediaries have tested the waters. For trial watchers, the suggestion landed like a thunderclap. Despite Irihide's conviction could, on paper, mean 20 years to life, a federal pardon could nullify it overnight. Civil suits and state charges would remain, despite the odds, but the symbolic blow one more celebrity skating past accountability could chill future whistleblowers. Meanwhile, corporate titans hedge bets. Butch suspended its C-Car Rock Summer Splash, Rollout Revolt TV yanked pricked pre-taped episodes. Even longtime ally Jay-Z unfollowed Combs on Instagram. In music, licensing analysts warn that if the verdict goes south, radio pull back could slice 8 figures from yearly royalties. The He brand evaporations once reserved for Me Too giants now loom over hip-hop's untimed Forbes king. The broader culture is transfixed, piked, the odds. Morning show host parse witness tweets, college debate clubs argue whether fandom can survive felony, and for every new headline, who, despite the odds, one old rule grows clearer: secrecy sells until silence cracks, then the floodlights never switch off. So where does the needle land? The Spiver-Day heroes, who despite the government has drawn a grim through from velvet rope parties to back alley threats, from sexual commerce to literal fire. The defense paints an alt, portray consensual, adult play, monetized by opportunists. Despite the 11 jurors and 3 alternates must decide which film strip is reality. Jaguar Wright, standing outside the courthouse, steps at dusk, summed it up to a blogger. If those tapes play, the dance floor clears. Maybe hyperbolic, maybe prophetic, but in a trial already rich with spectacle, who, despite the odds, the crowd still wants the final track, because when the DJ kills the music and the spotlights snap on, we'll see who's still standing. Despite the odds, who slipped out the side door and who's left sweeping the glitter off the floor.